All right, we've now seen how to gotten through the hardest part, which is all the mastering and recording and dotting your T's and crossing your I's. So now we'll go in and do a deep dive into all the different things you can do when authoring and all the different effects. While we were paused, I had a question about can you use this for like auto-generating or like loading data from a JSON file for your video? And the answer is absolutely yes. This is just HTML, so anything you can do in a normal web page you can do in here. So you can load data from a JSON file via AJAX and then have that displayed. The only tricky part is I said with web autoplay policy, having dynamically generated audio is, I think, possible, but it could be tricky. I have a partly working implementation of live streaming sort of experiment of that, where you could have your just sort of code a shell of a Ractive and then have that talk to a server over WebSockets or HTTP polling or whatever, and then have like a host broadcasting to the video, have them load from that. Okay, so now we're going to go into all the different authoring features. So, and sort of the various, maybe it'll be a good way to organize this is to do it by sort of by all of these different packages. Explain what they do. Okay, so we've already seen the recording package and the thumbnail capturing package. What I'll focus on next is the prompts package, which is to make it very convenient to record. So here, so in the original intro file, I had import intro prompt from prompts. So copy that and intro prompt. So again, this is another thing that, like in the production version, I had. Well, actually, no. The way I did it is, so if we open up prompts.tsx, most of this is commented out. But we'll see what happens when we uncomment it. So it says this is commented out. You could choose to leave it in, though, for accessibility. So I'm going to uncomment all of this stuff. We had a bunch of stuff commented out for development. And then, whoops. So now, that'll probably get angry because it's mentioning markers that don't exist. So yeah, let's create a demo prompt instead. So what this does is it provides like prompts to read from when you're recording so that you don't have to, like I find it very hard to think about what I'm trying to say and say it at the same time and remember my lines. I stumble over my words, so if we go intro/first, I split this here, I say, hello world. This is my very first Ractive. What is it upset about? That's the wrong. Aha. Oh, call this demo prompt. this is a good reason to, so here's a good reason to use, so I was saying the development version of these scripts, then we get more informative for errors from React. Comment these out as well. Okay, still not the most helpful error message in the world. e.props is undefined. Oh, yes, no closing tag. That would do it. Okay, so now when we reload, I have this nice little dialog floating around that tells me what I'm supposed to say. So the current, what a text prompt for the current marker is like highlighted and visible, but I can also see sort of a faded out version of what I'm supposed to say next. So this makes it very easy when recording to just say like, "Hello world, this is my very first Ractive." We can go into add more. So each of these consists of, like, a prompt is a collection of cues. So a prompt will make one of these boxes. So I usually have like one prompt for each slide. And then the cues, each cue is you give it the name of a marker and then like what you want to say. You can also do inline cues. So if you cue on equals intro / cool. That's the name of it, yeah. Like this with just an empty tag. Then the way this will display is, "Hello world, this is my very first Ractive." Then it'll just display like a pipe character. It's so cool to have you here. So that can be useful when you don't want to like break up the text into lots of different steps. So then you can go and record, and when you're recording, just read off from the prompt what you're supposed to say. And since you're not screencasting, like the prompts will not make it into the final recording. This is just you're sort of only recording logical events like marker changes and audio and yeah, and keys recording maybe, but not like this. So now let's do something. That's the prompt package. So now the first really cool thing is yeah, the coding. So let's see how to do a code recording. So again, I'll make sure I've got the recording package loaded. Oops, index.tsx. So again, this this tutorial repository, that's the file on the homepage, like has a bunch of. You can just look at the source code for this to see how to do various things. So import recording control, and now here is where we'll do the import code recorder plugin. And here we now need to add the code recorder plugin to the recording control plugins. So now it's got, it's not good. You might need to recompile the style sheet. That's strange. One second, why is it unhappy about that? Okay, sorry, let me, oh, I know what happened. So I uncommented the recording JavaScript, but I also need to uncomment the recording CSS. Okay, so now we've got this code recording option here. So we'll copy what we have in there's a CodeMirror slide that shows how to use this. I'll just copy all of that into our demo slide. So this change this back to intro. Maybe to be more accurate, I'll rename the markers to demo. Demo. So that's a bad idea because, yeah, again, it'll sort of get angry if you are referencing markers that no longer exist. So right now we've commented out the part that's recording. It says uncomment this to record typing. So recorder equals this. And we're not going to have the replay yet because we haven't recorded anything to replay. And the CodeMirror prompt. Yeah, okay, so let's go through this. Debug this. Marker CodeMirror does not exist. Ah, yes. Okay. I think I'll just do the recording first and then go through like what line by line what all of these things are doing. Start equals intro. Marker, oh, right, so it's upset because the CodeMirror prompt is referencing the CodeMirror marker. Okay, now, and I also need the CodeBooth CSS, so let's fix that. We have this lovely code recording interface. So here I can do like console.log, hello world, and I've got there's a shortcut. If I press Control Enter, it will like run. You can also do from here. And I think Control K. No, maybe not on this one, but I can press clear to clear this. Of course, we want to do a recording, so again, we'll upload this to a place with HTTPS. Put index.html. Where is the demo? Refresh this. Okay, so now we've got. Now I think this should be working. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's do that for. Oh, and pause recording will let you like pause the recording and then like resume without like disrupting the flow of the audio. It's very handy if you need to like take a breath. And discard will just throw away the recording without saving it. Okay, so now let's try recording some code. So this is, I'll just do a basic hello world example. Hello world. You can run that, and this appears for the viewer. You can say console.log hello world. We'll use an example of arrays. This names equals mark for const name of names, console.log name, print that out. Now I'll press Alt-R again to stop recording. So now I've got these marker durations, which I'll paste in here again, and this is only doing the intro one. Now I've got this recording, this keyboard recording, so that I put into recordings.ts, paste that in here, and and then I download the audio again. Oh, I think it's still just saving it to my downloads. Yeah. Okay, so now go delete the audio files we had before. Put this in. I think that should do it. So now, okay. Hello world. This is my very first Ractive-Play. It's so. I think there's a sort of feel like there's a CSS issue going on here. What is this? Oh, right. Sorry. So after we have recorded, now we need to actually tell it to replay the recording. So comment out recorder. Tell it to replay. rp-codemirror does not exist. Why? Marker number of let's see where in bundle.js it is saying this. So this is happening in. Oh, it might be that it's still importing. Could be that it's still importing the CodeMirror slide, even though it's not using. That. Yeah, so let's put Webpack into, to make it easier to debug things. That is not helpful. Markers, prompts, highlights. Yeah, but that's not being loaded. Marker CodeMirror does not exist. Bundle.js 281. First time. During intro. Should not be referencing CodeMirror slide anywhere. Well, let's just uncomment this for now and see if that makes it happy. Okay, hello world. This is my very first Ractive. It's so cool to have you all here. Well, I prefer not to do live debugging, but that's instructive. So export const code recording. Yeah, this should work. Prompts. Get rid of all this to be safe. Marker number of CodeMirror. Yeah, but it's not mentioned. It's definitely not referencing the CodeMirror slide from here. Where is it? There. Where equals code mirror. Very. Let's apply this. Wonder if we. No, it's still compiling Webpack. And this is still our local version, not the online version. Where is it saying code mirror, code replay, start code mirror. Yeah, it seems like it's not reparsing this. It's very strange. So yeah, it's importing the demo file. Let's try that. Oh, what it's probably doing is I probably made a syntax error somewhere, and it's refusing to. Yeah, that's fine. Marker code mirror does not exist. So strange. Start equals intro. Right, I'm gonna pause the recording for a second while I. All right, we're back. So the issue was a very embarrassing, stupid bug in the actual rp-codebooth package, but that has now been fixed. So update, run npm update, and now this will work. So now we've got, so this is, let's just do a basic hello world example, hello world. Now it's playing the audio and the code that we had recorded and playing through that. You can seek, you can go in Playground and experiment with the code yourself. So that's now very, very nice and what we wanted. So back to our list of different packages, explaining what all the different packages do. So yeah, we've covered several of these. So the code booth package, there's two packages related to code. The rp-codemirror package is a lower level thing. It deals with just the, like having this code mirror instance and the recording of code. Then the code booth package is this actual interface of like code, playground, copy, run, buttons, the output pane, and whatnot. So the code booth package is, if that suits your needs, you can use that. But if you want something more customizable, then you can just use the rp-codemirror package directly, and then you can make whatever kind of UI that you want. rp-cursor and rp-paint packages, those are explained in the tutorial and like in the source code for the tutorial, so maybe I won't go into that. But I'll talk about maybe how to use some more of the, how to put in more interactivity. And again, now that we've recorded this this code demo, we would go through and like we could re-record the thumbs for this. So we'd have to put the thumb capture plugin back in, demo that. Yeah, that's still there. And then I have to do this same thing. Oh, need to not have that there. Click the extension, put in the extension ID, and then just let it do its thing. So now we get some slightly more interesting thumbnails, thumbs. Yeah, replace. So now we get the thumbs for our code recording. Okay, now I'll go and talk about the interactivity. So this is already sort of covered by the tutorial, so I'll strip out the demo stuff we've been doing, put all this back in. So now this highlights will work as well. We'll take that out. Take out our prompt, our demo prompts rather. Don't need that anymore. And go ahead and the markers. So I think I had intro was the first. And stir.match is not a function. Oh, that typically means that we are missing a marker name. Oh, actually that usually means that we have, that this is not, this file isn't being loaded correctly. Yeah, if we go error messages from this this software are often very hard to debug, unfortunately. I think console.log markers. So that's fine. Show.tsx. Yeah, let me take a moment again to figure out what's going on here. Okay, so there were two issues. One is that while I was trying to debug the code mirror stuff, I had commented this out and then included this here, so that I was not happy about including a variable that wasn't defined. Then secondly, when I was restoring the markers, I screwed up. There's actually supposed to be an intro/Ractives marker as well. Since I no longer have the time for that, I'm just going to go and git checkout -- source markers. So reset that to normal, back to what it was. And now, oh, need to make sure we're still compiling this. For some reason, it is still. Oh well, it has the new recording as well. Now, like the code recording that we did instead of the one that the tutorial had shipped with. Why is it starting there? Oh, intro.tsx. That should be fine. See, oh yeah, I think. Right. Also, when I was debugging, I had changed this to something different. So yeah, there was no issue in the code here with the code mirror. There was a very embarrassing bug in the codebooth package where I hard-coded the starting marker as code mirror. Oh yeah, while we were, I think I forgot to do this. Once we had gone back, this codebooth package accepts. So here, mode is like setting the code mirror mode to JavaScript. Start is like the marker where the recording should start. So in here, in that case, that's the code mirror. An interpreter. So interpreters, you can like provide an interpreter to like run the code. So put the JavaScript interpreter in this lib directory, which I said is like going to be shared between a whole bunch of different Ractives that you use. So this is a very basic interpreter. This is basically just running JavaScript code through eval and faking a console to get the output in this pane. You can also do this. I've used this with Python as well, using the sculpt library to interpret Python. Okay, so now we've gotten away from the litany of errors. I'm going to talk more about interactivity. So one thing, oh yeah, so there's a warning about this on the site somewhere. Oh, okay, sorry, that part of the site is not written yet. I think it is. Okay, so this is in our mastering checklist. So far, we have covered these things. And so now it's the fat fingers and mouse up that I need to explain. So if we, right now, if I click on the video, nothing happens. But normally, if you're watching a video, when you click on the video, it will like pause and play it. This is like the behavior of usual, like on a YouTube video. If you click the video, that will pause or play it. But this is a problem if if some parts of the video are supposed to be interactive. You want the viewer to be able to interact with that without pausing and stopping the video. So when it says canvas click is an event, just meaning that somewhere the video has been clicked and that'll pause and restart it. And there's have to be careful because when the recording module is enabled, it will disable that just because it's kind of annoying while you're recording. But that means you might not catch it. So if we take the recording module out, then now this is see when I click the canvas, it pauses and plays. So we skip ahead to this part of the demo where I invited the user to change the background color of the video. Did that not work? Oh, there we go. Yeah, the background or the subtitle. If we go into the source for intro.tsx, on this div, which contains like the code for fiddling with the Ractive, I have this attribute on mouse up, equals player.preventCanvasClick. So the player class you load from, this is one of the things you can import from Ractive-Player. And then to prevent canvas clicking, you just attach like on mouse up equals prevent canvas click. And then the user can click in here without pausing the video. Clicking outside will still have the same behavior. Okay. So that's one of the things you have to do to make inputs work as expected. Is you need to prevent the canvas clicking behavior. Let's change this god-awful background back. So another thing I might want to do for interactivity is like drag and drop functionality. So I've got, let me put the media URL back so we have our pictures. Okay, so
that out. Or you might
show you how to use the one of the drag helpers. So dragging and dropping is a bit of a tricky thing on. So there's the utils slide. Yeah, so here's the code for the utilities slide, which shows how. There's an animated duck here.
Utils.animation.animated duck.
So it moves the duck around, and it also shows how to make this draggable pig. So for the draggable pig, so both of these come from utils. So during and from we've already seen, and then drag helper react is going to be the thing that we use to make the interactivity. We go down here. So this is just attaching, like telling those bullet points to appear at the appropriate markers. Then here on the pig, so class name equals draggable. Somewhere in the style sheet, I have something saying like, okay, draggable things will have a drag cursor, and then we've attached pig events here. So pig events, what is that? That comes from, so we use react.useMemo because this creates an object. And then drag helper react. So this is going to get, we pass to this 3 event handlers. The first one is what happens when like the cursor is moved. Second one is when there's cursor down, and the last one is when cursor up. And this helper will like abstract over so that this will work with both like desktop mouse dragging and mobile or touchscreen finger dragging. It'll abstract over the differences between those. So the down, the down event is going to just set up some stuff and add the dragging class. So the dragging class is like when I click on this, the cursor switches from draggable to like dragging, and the up event removes that. So this complicated stuff is in the move event. So your event handler is passed this native event, which is either a touch event or a mouse event, depending on it's like a touch screen or a desktop. And then hit, this is just contains like the X and Y coordinates of where the mouse currently is. And then dx, dy, this is also, this is like the change from the last motion if you want to use that. And so then I've just set the top, and so this is making sure that we can't drag the pig off the screen. Why there's some complicated math there, but then it basically works just by assigning, by changing the pig styles, or the pig's images CSS. So here I've used percentages. It's generally good to put everything in percentages, or like relative units, or like relative to the like relative to the root font size, for instance, so that this will all just scale appropriately. Then what we're doing here is, so constrain is another utility. So utils.misc is sort of just a kitchen sink of random stuff that ought to be in JavaScript but isn't. And so constrain, you pass it 3 values. The middle value is sort of the one that you want, but then the first one is a lower bound and the last one is an upper bound. And then if it's lower than the lower bound, then it'll just give you min, and if it's bigger than max, it'll just give you max. So here I've said constrain 0 is saying I can't pull it off the screen. Then to this part is telling it how to like where to put the pig. So we've got hit.x, which is the x coordinate of like where the cursor is on the screen. But since basically since the left is sort of relative, the left is relative to this rp canvas, this canvas div, which is not like all the way to the left on the screen. We have to subtract off the x coordinate of like how far left the canvas is, and this is the I guess this was our initial sort of offset, like where if we clicked on the pig,
and then there's also a helper.
So when we initially clicked on the pig, like when we say left and top, that's positioning the top left corner of the pig image. So if I so when we write left and top, that is positioning where this is. So the other important thing that I was doing in the down event is to say, okay, like if you click on here, then it needs to measure the distance from here to this point. And so it saves that in offset, and then then uses that to calculate the relative position, and divides by player canvas width or player canvas offset height to get the percentage. The percentage here. There's also, so I haven't gone so far into the JavaScript yet, but player is sort of this global context for everything you can be doing in your Ractive. So the way you access that is use player. So that's just a hook that is sort of exported at the root of the library. Then you can use player equals use player. And then one of the properties of player is the canvas. So this is like the root of where all of all your content is attached. And I also had this animation helper. So for the duck, so let's now talk about the duck. So animate, so here we've const duck equals use ref, so that's a reference to this HTML element. Then this rotate, so I've got use memo, so this is, animate is going to give me back a function that takes in a time and spits out just some value. So by default, the start value is 0. I've set the end value here. By default, it's 1. I've set the end value to 2 pi because I want to rotate it in a full circle. The start time is saying like when the animation should start. And again, here I've accessed, so I've done player.script.parseStart, so that'll give me, that will spit out the time where like that marker occurs. So by switching to that marker, like when I'm recording, that's what causes the animation to fire. Duration is how long the animation should run in milliseconds, so that's 1 second. And then easing is an easing function to make the animation seem more natural, which just linear animation does not look natural. So that is using a separate library called Bezier easing for Bezier curves, and then I just copied the parameters for an ease-in sine transition. So then rotate. What we end up with is, like what it gives us in the end is a function which takes in a number and spits out a number. So the number t that it's taking is the current playback time of the Ractive, and the number it's spitting out is going to be the angle at which to display it. So use time update, this is another hook. So this will run anytime like the current time of the Ractive changes, like where it's playing. So all of these would be firing like a use time update hook. And then in here, we would say p, so p is for progress. So p equals rotate t, so that'll give us like the angle at which it should be rotated. And then here, now I'm setting the left and top properties to, that angle around the circle. It's like centered at 3515 with a horizontal radius of 15 and a vertical radius of 12.5. It's moving in an elliptical motion rather than a circle, really. Okay, so that's some of the basic animation and dragging. Something else I should have mentioned, just realized on the intro slide. So already discussed, you need to add the prevent canvas click to stop this from pausing,
making it easier to
and starting the video. But there's another thing you need to do whenever you have a text input. So there's keyboard controls for the player, like I already mentioned, the E and W. Space will pause and play. I think K will also pause and play. J and L will seek. This is pretty much the same as the YouTube controls. So you need to disable the keyboard controls whenever a text input is focused. So that, so if we go here, so here in the text area, in the intro slide, we have an on blur equals player.resume key capture, and on focus equals player.suspend key capture. And be careful here, the on mouse up is attached to like the player static class, but the resume key capture and suspend key capture are attached to the player instance. So to use those, we need to have the use player hook at the beginning of this. So if we took these out, and then went into here, now I try typing, then it's
for example,
screwed up
try
because
changing the background color of this.
Anytime I try to press E or W, it's screwing the video around. So this is another very important thing for just making sure your Ractive actually works in a predictable way. I think there's a note about this in the authoring section of the documentation. There's this thing about forms explaining this. So already mentioned fake full screen. So fat fingers, this was another thing on our mastering list. What this is referring to is that just on mobile, it's very hard to precisely, or if you're using your touch screen, the finger, it's hard to precisely click a component. So I guess I don't have an example of this in the main tutorial, but in the think in the math tutorial, okay, so in the math tutorial, there's an example of this, so I can drag this thing in the video, this circle in the video. And in the source, this is the wrong console window. Okay, so in the source, I've got this circle, draggable point A, but then I've got this second circle with the class fat fingers. So this is, the fat fingers is not displaying here because I'm not on mobile, so I don't need it. But actually, this would probably be good to have. One thing I didn't realize until I got this new laptop is it's not quite optimized yet for screens like desktop touch screens, so where you have both a mouse and the ability to do finger touches. That'll be fixed pretty soon. But anyway, so this additional circle here, this is basically just a transparent circle with a much larger radius. So if we got rid of that, then we could, like drag it all the way from here, just sort of not precisely on the circle, whereas we can't do that here. And so that'll, to make this use like your, to make anything for touchscreen, so whether that's like a laptop touchscreen or a mobile device, to make it usable, you need to make your clickable areas larger than just what they look like, or else the user will be having to like press their finger multiple times to hit like the exact right spot on the screen. So it gives you some example CSS to write for that here. So yeah, so here's this is for an HTML component. If you had like a button or some HTML element that was being clicked on, and then for SVG components, which is what I use this for more often than HTML, you can just use like a larger, if you have like a circle element, you can just put a circle element which is transparent and has a much larger radius behind it to increase the clickable area. Let's see, other the things. Another thing is if you are on mobile, so React has like an on-click event, but it doesn't really, click events don't really work reliably. So when you want to respond to a touch the same way as you'd respond to a click, so there's an on-click helper in the library that will act as a, in the mobile section, yeah, maybe the type declaration is not the, let's see if we have an example in here. Aha. Okay, so there's not in the main, in the like Ractive content, but there is in one of the optional library helpers. So I'll demonstrate this also. So more in the, like all the stuff that's commented out here, but that you can explore, is this help control. Where do I, yeah, and if I put it in here, help control. So now that will give this help control that explains all the video shortcuts. So I've made this optional, but you might want to put this in so your users know, like those keyboard shortcuts I was mentioning earlier, here's what they are. J is go back 10 seconds, left is go back 5 seconds, K or space, etc. So then it's good to see how to make a custom control. So how you put controls in is, as we've been doing before, you put it in this section where you're configuring the controls, which gets passed to player here. So then source, again, the help control is in this library directory. So what does this do? So the key map, talk about that later. There's a way you can customize the key recordings, or sorry, the keyboard shortcuts used by the player. So what this is doing is this is adding a new keyboard shortcut to when the user presses the question mark key to open up the help dialog. And then the escape binds the escape key to close the help dialog. So this is also showing you how to customize, add your own keyboard shortcuts. And then this events, so here's how you use the on-click helper. So again, you import utils from Ractive-Player. Then you extract on-click from the mobile utils helper. And then you just attach, you give it like the callback that you want to happen when something is clicked. You memoize that because it's going to give you back a block of React stuff. And then where are the events? Oh yeah, and so we've attached the events here. So now that that attaches some like on-click and like on-touch stuff that will deal with the complications of like parsing touch events as click events. There's newer browsers, the pointer events API might be a cleaner way to do this, but that isn't universally supported, or like in if you need to support older browsers. So this is how you can have a custom control. You could put your own help dialog here. Maybe I'll go through explain a few more things that are in this lib directory. So link.tsx. Again, this is just dealing with some of the so in intro.tsx, I have some links to like the Diamond Age Wikipedia page or Reddit. It's repository. And again, if you click on a link, that you don't want to pause the video, so a link should always have an on mouse up player canvas click attached to it. And I've also said like open the link in a new tab, so we're not navigating out. In fact, I think if you didn't have this, it would open it in the iframe that the video is playing in, which would be weird. Loading screen. This is an optional thing for this is sort of a legacy, in some ways a legacy thing. Telling the player to be ready is mostly due to math stacks taking a long time to render, and so sort of like in the math tutorial, here's that loading screen, and technically some of it is waiting for the audio to be ready to be played, but like 90% of that is just like almost all of that was caused by MathJack's rendering. So that having to like say when the player is ready, that comes from MathJack, and that might be taken out in a future release. So a loading screen, kind of optional, but if you want to load some, or if you wanted to like load data from via Ajax for your video, then you could display this while it's loading that and getting all the data ready, and then say it's ready once it's ready to play. So it's the loading screen. Rebind arrow keys. So this is another example of how to customize the keyboard controls. What I did here is, so by default, the arrow right arrow by default will seek like in the video. I find it helpful when recording to, I have like a clicker for my laptop. So instead of pressing E on my keyboard while I'm recording to advance to the next marker, I can just press the next button on my clicker. It doesn't make a sound in the recording. It's easier. But the clicker that I have just always sends the keyboard event a right key. So for recording, I have done this little thing to rebind. So here I'm going and unbinding whatever the left arrow key was doing, whatever the right arrow key was doing, and then I'm binding arrow right to the function script.forward is what gets called when you press E. It advances to the next marker. So you don't need that. You could comment that out. Remember volume settings. So here, what have I done? Yeah, it's angry at me for something again. Oh, get rid of this because I didn't load the loading screen. Okay. So remember, volume settings is here. If I change the volume and then reload the page, it doesn't remember that. So remember, volume settings will, if you turn that on, and you have to pass this player.playback. So if you do that, then it needs, it's possible that it needs permissions for local, oh, no, now it's working. So it's remembering the volume settings from page to page. So the reason this is not, was originally on by default in the library, but in order to remember any sort of settings, you'd need to have some sort of local storage on the user's computer, and because of GPDR, you don't want to just have that on by default. So that's what this remember volume settings does. Again, this is not, all this stuff is not, in the lib directory is not in the standard library or the base library. It's just stuff in this tutorial that I've found useful. Seek on load. So this is a thing for if you want to link to a particular part in a video, then you can do t equals $t equals 135, and it'll, so then when the video loads, it'll start there, like this. And that also works, usually you're not going to be, you're not going to send people right to this page. They're going to see the video embedded in some other page. So this will also work if we go t equals 5 minutes here, then it'll start the video there. So the source for that is, this is some horrible regular expression to parse a time thing, but what it's doing is looking, okay, does the parent have a t equals thing, and if so, playback.seek to that point. Then this last one, show marker name. This is just another example of a custom control. Add custom controls. Oh, that's already imported. So what that'll do is just show you the name of the current marker that you're on. So this can be handy when you're developing to keep track of stuff. Again, the source for that, you can see how to do things like this. This is how you can get the current marker name. Some other things. Okay, so that's everything in the lib directory. I guess some other types of effects you might want are, another thing in the tutorial is it shows you how to pause the video at a certain point. So I think that's in the intro. Yeah, so we've got a marker intro/pause. And so at some point in the video, I say, oh, I'll pause the video so you can try that out. Then just press play to continue. So how to actually implement that is, so here first, M is going to be just the time where of the pause marker. So that's just the number. That's going to be the time in milliseconds. We're also going to keep track of the previous time that the player was at. And so every time we have a time update event, which is like several times per second, we'll check is to see if the player, like playback time is now after this, and also like slightly after this, and also the previous time was slightly before this. So this, you want to do this so that like what you're doing here is making sure that like once it gets past intro/pause, so
background. Even without interactivity, try changing the background color of this video or the subtitle. I'll pause the video so you can try that out. Just click the play button.
Yeah, so it only pauses the video if you're like watching normally, and then cross over the intro/pause marker. Once we resume, it's not like if we only had this. If you're very close to the pause marker without also checking the previous time, then it might just like keep pausing every time you try to replay it after that time. So yeah, this is how you do like a pause at a particular time. This might become clear already. This is not a super opinionated framework. It's trying to be, in some ways, like a thing like React, just a very general purpose framework that a lot of other stuff can be built on top of. So a lot of these like things that you might want to do, like this or seek unload or remember volume, are not in standard library, but you might put them in your own personal sort of library of plugins and functions. You could all it's very imaginable that we could turn this into or things like this into npm packages once it became standardized enough. So yeah, I mean, all of the plugins I mentioned were things that I sort of developed enough for my own use that it seemed robust enough to package it into a separate plugin. But I really need to see how people are using this technology before sort of making prescriptions about how it should be used. So and like with the controls, this gives you a lot of flexibility in like how you actually want this to turn out. I think I will probably wrap things up here. We've covered a huge amount of information. I've tried to make it so that once you sort of get into the swing of things, this is a very pleasant authoring and recording environment, but there is quite a learning curve. So there's a bunch more stuff in the tutorial. It'll like show you how to do, as well as some other stuff in the math tutorial. It's somewhere over here. The math tutorial explains all the math features, like doing graphics or 3D graphics, all that good stuff. But yeah, it's been going on for more than a couple hours, so I think we'll wrap up. And again, I'm always available for more individualized questions on troubleshooting. Thanks for watching.